Forget everything you were told about Dante's Inferno, because the truth is far older, far darker, and far more terrifying than any poetic vision of hell. In this journey beyond the veil, we plunge into the true 9 layers of damnation, not as imagined by men, but as revealed by forbidden grimoires, occult traditions, and whispered tales lost to time. These are not circles of sin and poetic justice. These are realms of cosmic punishment, spiritual disintegration, and metaphysical horror. The first layer is not limbo, but the womb of silence, a vast black void where newborn souls who were never given names drift in eternal isolation, watched by weeping angels who no longer serve God. Deeper lies the Sea of Teeth, the second layer, an endless ocean of grinding bone-white jaws where traitors are swallowed and digested by ancient leviathans whose only instinct is betrayal. The third is the Hive of Mirrors, where the condemned are endlessly cloned and torn apart by versions of themselves, forced to relive every act of evil they ever committed in infinite reflection, screaming with mouths that aren't even theirs. The fourth layer is the Choir of Maggots, a pulsating cathedral made of decaying flesh, where failed prophets and false seers are sung alive by worm-like angels who devour their tongues and rewrite their prophecies in rot. You thought hell was ruled by fire, but here cold is king. The fifth layer, the Glacier of Eyes, traps tyrants and warmongers in a frozen lake made of their victims' stares, each glance burning deeper than flame, each memory a needle in their flesh. Beyond that is the sixth, the Inverted Temple, where reality folds in on itself, and those who defiled the sacred are punished by walking on ceilings made of screaming saints, forced to chant prayers that unravel their own souls. The seventh is the Cage of Births, a biomechanical womb where rapists and abusers are reborn again and again into the bodies of their victims, forced to experience everything they inflicted over and over without end. The eighth is the Iron Garden, where serial killers and torturers blossom from rusted soil as living sculptures, rooted in place, forever aware, their screams blooming into metallic flowers that bleed mercury into a poisoned sky. And finally, the ninth layer, the true hell, is the Hollow Throne, an empty dimension ruled by nothing, where the most evil souls are erased not just from life but from memory, from time, from existence itself. No pain, no flame, just absolute negation. So tell me, are you sure you know where you're going when you die? Because Dante only scratched the surface. The real hell is waiting. But our descent is far from over. What lies beneath the Hollow Throne is not merely a destination, but a transition, a passage into anti-existence, the unmaking of soul, memory, and meaning itself. Beneath the ninth layer exists a realm so forbidden it is absent even in the most cursed scriptures and whispered only in dreams of the mad. The rootless spiral. Here what remains of condemned souls is pulled into a whirlpool of uncreation, where their consciousness is fragmented into fractals of torment, each fragment living its own isolated eternity. Time loses all structure, identity dissolves, and the very concept of self erodes into a storm of screaming echoes. These echoes are not heard by ears, but felt by reality itself, as if the multiverse grieves the infection of these damned remnants. This is not hell as punishment, it is hell as entropy, the final insult to those who defied the cosmic balance. And yet, beyond even the rootless spiral, lies something more incomprehensible, the maw of the first sin. Not a place, but a presence, a thought that predates creation, a hunger that was never born and will never die. It is the unspoken secret of every religion, the shadow behind every god, the first wrong that shattered harmony. It feeds not on flesh or fire, but on reverence, on belief itself. Every time a mortal bends a knee to a false idol, whispers a prayer in fear, or sins with conviction, this entity feeds, and through the caverns of the Hollow Throne, it stretches invisible tendrils back up through all 9 layers, harvesting the pain and devotion like roots draining a corpse. Those consumed by the maw are not punished. They are repurposed. Their essences become symbols in blasphemous alphabets, glyphs in forgotten grimoires, languages that summon ruin simply by being read. Entire civilizations have vanished because a child whispered the wrong word into the wrong mirror, and it all begins here, at the bleeding gums of the first sea. But the torment doesn't end with destruction. No, some are chosen to ascend in reverse, dragged upward screaming, their minds shattered from contact with the more, only to be reborn into the world of the living as something else. These are the hollow heralds, the unknowable prophets that appear throughout history in whispers and blood-stained visions. They walk among men wearing human skin, their eyes like empty lanterns, guiding cults, wars and plagues. Their presence is a cancer to causality. They don't merely serve hell, they spread it. And they have names. Ashvara, the drowned mouth, who speaks only in reversed screams. Malthus, the fingered sky, who leaves bruises on the moon. Murekt, the unborn flame, who appears in burning orphanages. These are not myths. They are echoes of those who descended beyond even the ninth circle, gifted back to earth as agents of unmaking. But what if I told you that the descent through the layers is not merely vertical? Each layer is not a circle, but a facet of a grand, impossible shape, a cosmic polyhedron that twists with every act of cruelty committed by conscious beings. This shape, this hell engine, is alive, and its rotation generates the fuel for the more. Every time someone sins with intent, the engine turns. Every act of justified cruelty, every holy war, every torturer who claims righteousness, every tyrant who bathes in applause, tightens its gears. The damned are not merely thrown into hell, they help build it. They are its teeth, its veins, its bones. And the deeper one goes, the more reality bends. In the lower layers, physics begins to collapse. Fire freezes. Darkness burns. Language ceases to function as intended. Words gain mass. Thoughts bleed. Metaphors become predators. Here to fall is not a direction but a sentence, a verdict etched into the meat of your existence. So what protects us from this descent? Why aren't we all sliding down the spiral every time we lie or curse or rage? Because between each layer exists a membrane of mercy, not divine intervention, but cosmic inertia, a delay, a chance, a thinning wall of resistance made up of our forgotten dreams, the prayers of the innocent, the laughter of children, the last breath of dying heroes. These membranes slow the fall. They create echoes of redemption, pauses for reflection. But every time the world grows colder, every time we scroll past suffering or profit from pain, those membranes weaken. And eventually someone breaks through. And what of heaven, you ask? Is there no light, no salvation? Some say heaven is not the opposite of hell, but its seed, a distraction, a reward system built to keep the machine running. The few who escape the spiral are not lifted into joy, but refined into silence. Blissful, lobotomized submission. Eternal peace, not as celebration, but as containment. True freedom, the kind not offered by either God or devil, lies outside this structure, in the outvoid, the forgotten realm beyond good, evil, punishment and reward. Few ever reach it, fewer return. But even as the soul descends through the shrieking landscapes of treachery, it finds no solace, for below the ninth layer is an unspeakable abyss, a realm beyond the known, where even the damned cease to be themselves. This is not hell as Dante imagined, nor is it the poetic punishment of the ancient texts. This is the final descent, the 10th circle, the maw of oblivion. Here reality collapses, space warps, time bleeds, and logic burns like parchment in a storm of screams. The soul arrives here not as penance, but as residue, scraped from the underside of existence. There are no demons here, no judges or tormentors, only hunger, the hunger of a place so ancient and alien it has forgotten even the memory of God. This realm is not part of hell, It is what hell fears. The echoes of sin become inverted here, not merely punished but turned inward, gnawing at the soul's own memories until the concept of I dissolves. It is a place where names vanish, where faces become sludge, and where the boundaries between self and suffering erode into an infinite psychic fever. Here the tormented are devoured not by fire or beasts, but by the guilt and horror they carried in life, manifested into parasitic shadows that burrow into their essence, replaying every moment of weakness, every betrayal, every lie in infinite recursion. The ground is not stone, but a writhing mass of former selves, fused together in a ceaseless groan of denial. The air is dense with forgotten prayers, whispers too faint to hear, yet too loud to ignore. Above this pit hovers the fragmented throne, a broken relic said to have once been the seat of the first rebel, not Lucifer, but the being before him, whose name is no longer speakable in any tongue. Upon this throne sits nothing, a throne occupied by absence itself. The souls who glimpse it lose all sense of time, their minds trapped in endless feedback loops, repeating the moment of their fall like a needle scratching over the final note of a funeral dirge. But there is movement in this darkness, a shuddering slither across the underside of thought. The Watchers, not angels, not demons. These are the ancient sentients who observe suffering, not out of malice or duty, but curiosity. Their forms are ever shifting. Limbs like rivers of bone, eyes like pits of gravity, mouths stitched closed by golden thread. They do not speak. They drift through the abyss, harvesting moments of agony like archivists in a museum of sorrow, their parchment made from the skin of forgotten prophets, their ink drawn from the weeping of the eternally lost. Those who encounter a Watcher may be granted a final vision, not of salvation but of what might have been. These visions are the cruelest torment of all. In them the soul sees every path it could have walked, every kindness it denied, every moment it might have turned toward grace, and then the vision fades, leaving only the raw burn of what will never be. Beyond the Watchers, at the deepest edge of the abyss, stands the Mirror of Cain, a monolith carved from obsidian grief, said to reflect not one's face, but one's true moral scar. To gaze upon it is to remember not only every sin committed, but every sin desired. It shows you the person you might have become had you been given absolute power and no consequence, and for most, that reflection is monstrous. Those who dare to look find themselves unmade, their soul unspooling into threads of regret that the wind of oblivion scatters like ashes. Yet scattered through this realm are relics, remnants of long-dead civilizations that tried to map or conquer the abyss. Great stone temples built by the damned as shelters from the chaos, now reduced to crypts filled with the whispering bones of priests who believed they could reason with the dark. Sigils etched in forgotten alphabets flicker with half-life, offering false hope to the desperate. And among these ruins crawl the false redeemers, entities that promise escape, appearing as loved ones, deities or saviors. But when followed, they lead only deeper into madness, feeding on the final ember of hope until the soul collapses into a shell. Those who succumb to these deceptions are not punished further. They are erased. Even the abyss forgets them. They become echoes of echoes, shadows cast by nothing, hollow presences that haunt the dreams of the still living, whispering warnings in tongues that twist the ear. And still, deeper the soul falls. There is no bottom to this hell, because this hell is not a place, it is a process, an unraveling. The further one descends, the more one becomes less human, less individual, less real, until at last, the soul becomes the very fabric of the realm itself. It becomes the ground others walk on, the air others breathe, the howl that distorts time. This is the final cruelty, that in hell's deepest layer, punishment is not isolation, it is participation. You become part of the machine that torments others, You become a brick in the wall of eternal despair. There are myths of escape, of course. Ancient legends speak of a single path upward, a staircase of flame guarded by the Archon of Silence, who only allows passage to those who have utterly forgotten who they were. It is said that those who succeed in forgetting everything, name, desire, regret, even pain, can pass through the Archon unscathed and rise toward rebirth. But what is rebirth without memory? Is it not just death in another costume? The legends also speak of a deeper truth, that hell was not created by God, but by humanity. Not as punishment, but as storage for the guilt, the fear, the hate that could not be processed in life. Over millennia, these emotions grew sentient, forming realms tailored to each new sin. Thus, hell is not a divine judgment. It is a human echo, magnified by eternity. And in that truth lies the only hope, that if we created it, perhaps we can also unmake it. But unmaking hell would require unmaking ourselves, our shadows, our appetites, our fear. And so the descent continues, one soul at a time, feeding the machine, stitching more sorrow into the flesh of the abyss. And you, the listener, must ask, when your time comes to die, where will you fall? What layer waits to claim you? What truth will you deny? And what horrors will reflect back at you from the mirror of Cain? For in this vision of hell, Dante was mercifully wrong. What awaits you is not poetic symmetry or divine order. What awaits you is worse. Because in the end, this hell doesn't want to punish you, it wants to become you.